Are you ready? I shall set the scene. The year is 1833. The place, a prosperous dairy farm just outside of London. Now, normally everything's quite peaceful, but today there is a lot of commotion. You see, George Bodle, the elderly owner of the farm, is unwell. It started with severe pain in his stomach, and now he's in distress here and here. But we don't have to talk about that. But it's not just George, it's his entire household. His servants, his wife, everyone is ill. Now, good news, most of them recover really quickly, but George gets worse and worse and worse until poor George eventually dies. Now, George was almost 80 years old, so we might just kind of think his time had come, but why did the entire household get sick? The doctor makes a bold claim. He says they were poisoned. The doctor begins an investigation. He starts by interrogating the servant girl. He asks her about that day, and she says everyone was fine until breakfast. Then after their morning coffee, they became unwell. The doctor asks if anything else out of the ordinary happened that morning, and she thinks back and says, well, that was the day that young John, you know, Mr. Bodle's kind grandson, he came by and offered to help with the chores. He took the kettle to the well to get water. He went all by himself, which was a huge help to me. He came back, hung that kettle on the fire, and left. Oh, speaking of young John, he was recently telling me how much he loves this farm and that he's going to inherit it when Mr. Bodle dies. Suspicions are raised. For his next stop, the doctor pays a visit to the local apothecary. That's like a pharmacy or a drugstore in those days. The shop owner says that young John recently purchased some arsenic. Something about a problem with rats. Was young John really using arsenic to poison rats? Or was it for something or someone else? To find out, we need to know what arsenic is. Arsenic is an element. We don't make arsenic. We find it in the ground where it looks like this, a silvery metal. In this form, it's not toxic. When treated, arsenic becomes a white powder like this. And in this form, it is especially toxic to humans. Oh, probably shouldn't have touched that. As far back as the Renaissance, some folks understood the power of arsenic and used it to get rid of inconvenient, yes, rich relatives. These poisonings were so common that arsenic and other powdery poisons became known as inheritance powder. Next, let's find out how arsenic affects the body. Can I have a volunteer who wants to see their insides on their outsides? I saw your hand first, little friend. Are you ready? You don't have far to travel. Come on up, right onto the stool, stand up, wave your goodbyes to your family. All right, that was pretty good. Hold that right there. You might have to hold it a little higher than it. Ready? Arsenic first affects the stomach. Then the liver and kidneys fail. That's enough to kill you, but in high enough doses, arsenic will first affect the blood vessels, causing problems in your lungs, heart, and even your brain. Basically, arsenic blocks important chemicals your cells need to create energy. If your cells can't create energy, they die. And if your cells die, oh, I'm so sorry, friend. I'm just gonna hold this for you. Can I see your dramatic death? Oh, no! Big round of applause for our volunteer. But back to poor old George. Now we know there was damage to George's cells and organs, but certain other diseases can cause similar symptoms. So why do we think George was poisoned? Well, an English chemist named James Marsh came to the rescue. He tested the kettle, the coffee pot, the coffee grounds, and even George's vomit to see if any of them contained arsenic. And we're going to recreate his experiment today. Can I have a volunteer who wants to help me with that? Ooh, I saw so many hands so quickly. Right here, friend. Come on back. I'm going to give you this stool just to give you a little bit of extra height. Hop on up there. Ready? What we are going to do is we're going to take hydrochloric acid. Nope. Sulfuric acid. And we're going to put it into our samples. Now, if our sample changes color, it contains arsenic. Are we ready? What do you think? Color change? No color change there. Let's test the coffee pot. Color change? All right, I'm gonna let you do the vomit all by yourself. It's because I'm so nice. What do you think? Anything in that one? No color change there. You want to do the coffee grounds? Last one. Front row can see it. Good job. It's changing color. The coffee grounds contained arsenic. Big round of applause for our volunteers. They head back to their seats. Good job figuring that out. Now the problem is, the color change doesn't last. The case soon went to court, and James Marsh could only explain the test he had performed. And it looked something like this. Passing hydrogen sulfide through the suspect solution incited a chemical reaction producing a color change that would not exist outside the presence of the toxic culprit arsenic trisulfide. Regrettably, arsenic is a somewhat soluble semi-metallic element, inevitably resulting in the decomposition of the incriminating precipitate, thereby preventing me from showing it to you in person at this moment in this court of law. Did you get all that? Yeah, neither did the jury. There was no physical evidence showing them the coffee grounds contained arsenic. So the judge delivered a not guilty verdict, and young John got off free. I guess we'll just never know if he did it or not. James Marsh went back to his laboratory frustrated. And you know what frustrated chemists do, right? They create a new test. James Marsh discovered by using zinc and an acid like hydrochloric or sulfuric acid, he could convert arsenic into a gas. Then using fire, convert it into its elemental form. That's a silvery metal that doesn't disappear over time and can be shown to a jury. Let's see it in action, thanks to Dr. April Hill at Metropolitan State University.
In the Marsh test, we extract arsenic from a sample such as body fluid, tissue, or food, and we convert it into its elemental form, which is metallic and can be deposited onto a surface, which is then proof of the presence of arsenic in the original sample.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. It was too late for the case with young John, but the new Marsh test soon convicted a poisoner in France, and then it became the test for decades to come. Yeah, so hooray for toxicology. And good news, friends, deliberate poisonings are very rare, so you don't normally need to be concerned when you're at the breakfast table. But if you ever have a poison question or concern, you can contact the Colorado Poison Center for help. That's all I have for you today, friends. I'll be up here cleaning up our experiment if you have any questions or want to see anything up close. Otherwise, enjoy the exhibit.